One of the first things that I learned about Robin was that she didn't just hold office, she held conviction. Robin isn't someone who just talks about justice, she works for it. In Brighton and across Rochester, Robin has shown us what principled leadership looks like. When our city was on fire and was struggling with grief and outrage and pain over the killing of Daniel Prude and his life being taken by decisions of law enforcement on the streets of Rochester, similar to what we saw with George Floyd's life in Minnesota. Robin condemned the behavior. She marched alongside of her community with us. She earned our respect, knowing that we saw her authenticity. I watched Robin use every platform that she had to call for justice and changes beyond reform for public safety. She was one of the few politicians and political leaders who had political courage to know that we actually needed to support a new policing blueprint instead of nibbling around the edges of a system resistant to real change. That tweakings of reforms. Rochester continues actually to suffer the impact from the inaction to make real substantive change to our policing and public safety system. She joined me when Black voting rights were under threat by members of her own party. She joined me and Sabrina Lamar, who was a county legislator at the time, for a Free the Black Vote campaign that secured actually 6 historic Black majority voting districts for Black voters in Rochester, expanding voting rights that we were entitled to. 3 Black women took on an entire system, and we won. And Robin was instrumental in that fight, calling attention to the silencing of Black voices and the barriers that disproportionately affected Black voting rights. Robin did not stay quiet. She did not hedge. She did not calculate the political risk. She stood up, and that mattered. It mattered to me, and it mattered to an entire community. Because real progress has never come from comfort. It has always come from courage, which she has plenty of. Robin understood that protecting voting rights is not about party politics. It is about human dignity. It is about ensuring that every voice counts, especially voices that history has tried to silence and marginalize. She recognized that democracy only works when it works for everybody. But her advocacy didn't begin or end there. Robin has been a fierce and a consistent advocate for the underserved and marginalized, and working families struggling with housing insecurity, residents navigating economic hardships, systemic racism, communities fighting for environmental justice, immigration rights, and her own community members who too often felt invisible in policy conversations. She carried the weight. If human dignity and rights and justice were under threat, you could count on her to listen, to show up, and to act. And what I respect most about Robin is this. Her leadership is not performative, it's persistent. She understands that equity is not a slogan, it is responsibility that she takes very seriously. She knows that systems do not change unless people inside those systems are willing to challenge them. And she is willing. In Brighton, she has modeled what it looks like to serve with integrity and transparency. And leaders like that often pay a price. But she's never intimidated. You cannot intimidate a woman who was raised on survival, faith, and fire. In Monroe County and Rochester, she has built bridges between communities that too often feel disconnected. She does not lead from fear. She leads from principle and a fierce commitment to justice and fairness. And I believe we need leaders who will defend democracy when it is inconvenient. We need leaders who will stand with the marginalized when it is unpopular. We need leaders who understand that justice and governance belong together and that they are not optional or siloed. Robin Wilt is that kind of leader. I'm looking forward to supporting her in her run for U.S. Congresswoman, and not because of what she has done, but because of who she is. She's courageous, she's thoughtful, she's unwavering, she's deeply committed to the people she serves. Brighton and our broader community is stronger because of Robin Wilt, because she has chosen to lead. And we will be stronger still when we choose to stand with her as she sets her sights on serving us in Washington, D.C. And we all know that we have a bully and a wannabe king in the White House. But there are quotes that resonate with me when I think of Robin. And they are that a bully looks for fear and mistakes volume for strength. But a strong Black woman carries history, resilience, and power. Robin Wilt is driven to serve, and she does not bend, and she knows her power doesn't need permission. She is driven to serve. She simply needs people like you and like me to pull a lever for her and send her to Washington to dethrone the king.